Hello again. This is Jimmy, reading with Jimmy. We're reading chapter 2 of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, pages 32 to 33. I've marked up the pages again so we can discuss it and analyze it and enjoy the language. So, page before this, she was in the pool of tears. Alice was swimming around, heard some flapping, realized it's a mouse, and she starts talking to the mouse because everything else is perhaps possible. But in any case, there it is. And so she says, "Oh, mouse." She starts addressing the mouse. And she thinks that, you see in the first line, this must be the right way of speaking to a mouse. She had never done such a thing before. And then she remembered having seen in her brother's brother. You see the brother? Oh, let's mark that. I forgot to mark that. She's got a brother besides a sister. Remember, this all started with her reading with her sister. Right? Remember? And she wasn't reading with her sister. It had no pictures in the sister's book. In any case, she saw the brother's Latin grammar. Do you know what Latin is? You should Google that after this lesson and look it up. Latin is the dead language. Latin was spoken by Romans. Caesar, wrote the Gallic Wars in Latin. Jimmy studied Latin when he was a young man because it was required in high school. And when you study Latin, you ask yourself, why am I studying Latin? It's a dead language. They used to position it as a dead language. Nobody speaks Latin anymore, and yet we do, because a lot of our words come from Latin. A lot of our words come from the Greeks. So the English is a great borrower of words. Anglo-Saxon, we can talk about language some other time, but in any case, she remembers seeing something in her brother's Latin grammar. What did she see? A mouse, of a mouse, to a mouse, O mouse. She saw declining verbs. When you decline a verb in Latin, there's a way to do that, to look at the present, the past tense, all sorts of grammar that we don't want to talk about right now. But she remembers seeing it, so she decided to talk to the mouse using "O mouse." So when she starts talking to the mouse looks at her inquisitively. Remember, part of your study of language is to learn new words. Inquisitively is an excellent word. It means inquisitive. It means curiously. It means, wow. So you're inquisitive when you look with wonder. Remember, she's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The mouse is looking at her inquisitively. Why? Because she's talking to it, the mouse, and seemed to her to wink with one of its little eyes, but he said nothing. So it seemed. This, I'm surprised I didn't mark this one down. Let me mark that down. Seem. Whoops, seem. Whoops, we don't want that. We want seem. Seem. No, we don't want that. I guess I can't mark it down. Seem. Seem. Okay. What is seem? Let me type that out. Seem. B. You seem to be a good person. You are a good person. There's a big, big difference between the word seem and be or are. Those are verbs, right? You seem to be a good person. You are a good person. So it seemed to Alice to wink at her. Did the mouse wink? Well, it seemed to her it winked, right? We're going to talk about that. That's an advertising concept. Perception is reality. Perception. 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 Anyway, she says perhaps it doesn't understand English, she thinks. Maybe it's a French mouse. Come over with William the Conqueror. This is very important. William the Conqueror is going to come in later. In any case, for whatever reason, she thinks maybe this is a French mouse. And, came over with William the Conqueror. If you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, who William the Conqueror is, you miss something in this little sentence here. Because William the Conqueror, when she says that, when the third person narrator tells you that she says that, that's called in literature an allusion. An allusion is an indirect reference to something else that happened. So William the Conqueror is not part of this story. She's saying to herself, maybe this mouse is French and doesn't understand English. He came over with William the Conqueror. Now, who's William the Conqueror? Well, you better look him up in Google. William the Conqueror actually conquered England. That's where she is. We know she's in England now. And he conquered England in what's a famous battle called the Battle of Hastings. Battle of Hastings, 1066. That's when it happened. That's not when this book happened. That's not 1066. In any case, 1066 is a long time ago, and that was drilled into Jimmy's head when he was a young man. So with all our knowledge of history, Alice had no very clear notion about how long ago anything had happened. She's losing the concept of time. Why is that important? Well, the concept of time is important throughout this thing because it's like distance. Time is relative. You'll see that as we go. So she begins again, and she says, "Oui, Machette." She knows French, ladies and gentlemen. She says, "Oui, Machette." Now, I have to look that up because I don't speak French, but it means, "Where is my cat?" or "Where is my pussycat?" which was the first sentence in her French lesson book. So she studied French. She knows French. She goes, "Where's my cat?" Now, who's she saying this to? She's saying this to a mouse. The mouse, when he hears this, gives a sudden leap out of the water, and he seemed to quiver all over with fright. He's shaking. He's quivering like a leaf. And she goes, "Oh, I beg your pardon," she cried hastily, afraid that she had hurt this poor animal's feelings. I forgot. You didn't like cats." Of course he didn't. He's a mouse. This is a lesson to remember who you're talking to all the time. But the mouse talks back to her and says, "Not like cats," in a shrill, passionate voice. "Not like cats." That's a shrill, passionate voice, right? What do you mean, not like cats? Would you like cats if you were me? Interesting, isn't it? We can digress for a moment and talk about parts of speech. Shrill, passionate are adjectives modifying the noun voice, but we won't do that. But it enriches the language. It could have been written, "Not like cats," said the mouse. "Would you like cats if you were me?" And that would have conveyed the same thing that's happening, but it wouldn't give the richness of the words. Shrill, passionate. So I want you to try that sometime in the next few days. Talk in a shrill, passionate voice. You might be careful who you say it to, too, by the way. Anyway, next page, Alice answers it. Well, perhaps not in a soothing tone. See the word soothing here? Soothing. Why is she soothing? She's calming the cat down, or the mouse down now. "Don't be angry. I wish I could show you our cat, Diana." There's a new character. Alice has a cat named Diana. I think you would take a fancy to cats if you could only see her. "She's such a dear, quiet thing," Alice went on half to herself as she swam lazily about in the pool. She's talking to herself about her cat, calmly. "Oh, she's a dear, quiet thing. She sits purring, licking her paws, washing her face. Such a nice, soft thing to nurse. And she's really a capital one. She's really capital. She's really capital. She's a capital one. She's a good one for catching mice." Oh, I beg your pardon. She forgets who she's talking to. "I got this wonderful cat who catches mice." And this time the mouse was bristling all over. What's bristling? Look it up. Bristling, quivering, shaking. She felt certain that the mouse certain it See the word it? It, that's the mouse, must be really offended. It's not a he, it's not a she, it's an it. Why is it an it? Because we don't know if it's a he or a she, it's an it. We won't talk about her anymore if you'd rather not. Well, indeed, cried the mouse, who was trembling, quivering, bristling, trembling. Did you ever have the hairs on your arms stand up? Anyway, down to the end of it, as if I would talk on such a subject. Our family always hated cats. Nasty, low, vulgar things. Don't let me hear the name again. Isn't that how we feel about sometimes about people? Nasty, vulgar. So she cannot stand, right? The mouse can't stand talking about cats. Her family has always hated cats. Of course they have. They're mice. Cats eat the mice. So Alice says, I won't indeed. And in a great hurry to change the subject. Are you fond of dogs? But the mouse doesn't answer, so Alice talks about her dog. I've got this dog, this little dog. So she has a cat and a dog, a nice little dog near our house. It's not hers, but it's a little dog near her house. A bright-eyed terrier. You know what kind of dog a terrier is? Long, curly brown hair, it does all sorts of, it belongs to a farmer, and he says it's so useful. It's worth 100 pounds. He says it, right, the dog, kills all the rats. Oh. Whoops. So the cats kill rats and the dogs kill rats. And then Alice says, I'm afraid I offended it again. And the mouse was swimming away from her as hard as it could go, making quite a commotion. So the mouse has had it. He's not going to listen to this anymore. And he takes off. So she called softly after it, Mouse dear, please come back. Do come back. And we won't talk about cats or dogs either if you don't like them. And then when the mouse heard this, it turned. And we're going to finish the chapter in our next discussion. I could have finished it today because it's short, but I'd rather finish it in the next discussion. So we have a wonderful, wonderful story here going on where we learn that it's important to think about who we're talking to when we're saying anything. We used to have a saying when Jimmy was a kid, don't open your mouth. Speak when you're spoken to. Don't open your mouth. Children should be seen and not heard. That's very important because you start saying things, you start revealing yourself. Like in this case, Alice revealed herself to be not cognizant, not aware that she's talking, even though she knows she's talking to a mouse, she forgot that mice do not like cats. So you shouldn't really talk about your cat, even though you love your cat. Just don't do it. It's the same thing with grown-ups sometimes talk about things you shouldn't talk about, right? Because you forget who you're talking to. You start talking, next thing you know, you're in an argument. In any case, these are valuable lessons, and they're going to lead us into a wonderful series of chapters where Alice is going to meet all sorts of different creatures and have wonderful conversations and learn how to talk to people and learn something about herself. This is Jimmy, readingwithjimmy.com. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com is my email address. Please email me. I'll be glad to talk about any questions you have about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks again.